Good on.
Much. Surviving.
How was that? You guys? How was that?
With my head. Like, oh yeah. You need to
Double back.
move it up on your
Yeah.
lips.
Oh, you went so like the summertime. I hear it's like
Oh yeah. I mean, year
midnight
round,
sun or something. Did you see the Northern Lights?
Look, I'm gonna show you.
That to me,
This was like worth every single
just the
penny
Northern Lights, right?
that I spent. I'm gonna try to find the picture. Like, worth every single penny.
Dude, that must have been mind blowing.
And it's interesting because it's like when you see it in the sky, it's not very vibrant in color, but you see like this thing move through the sky. And when you take a picture of it, that's when the color comes out.
Wow.
But it's just like it's still like it's not a cloud. And
It's just like
amazing.
a light order.
Yeah.
Wow. Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
My friend Alini, I was in French for like almost 30 years at this point. But yeah, she was a travel partner. So like the waterfalls, the geysers, volcanoes, like
You did double that?
yeah, that was amazing. It's like 20 degrees outside,
And
and you're
like,
just
totally-
chilling in this like 100-degree pool water. It was great, and it's very kid friendly.
Yeah, no, we, listen, we didn't turn all that.
I just noticed that they were, after last meeting, I was like, I felt like you're in the place, I was like, oh my gosh, how they actually facilitated so many meetings.
You did a very good job, Cindy. Like I listened, I watched the entire like that was a tough meeting, and my
Kept
thing,
it going.
you were
Well, I mean, Jeremy, you were to tell, you know, like.
I don't want to
Glad
hear,
it wasn't a hindrance.
What?
I'm just happy.
you don't want to hear anything about Tug.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'll remind you.
It's 6:30, I'm gonna start the webinar.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You
I
doing,
blocked that
Malia?
meeting out of my mind.
Good to see you.
Likewise. Doing good. Still reliving my Iceland trip.
That's good. Do you have any pictures? Can I see it? Or do you need to get yours?
Hun. Very
I guess like coming from New York, you're like,
This
Hey,
is
guys, by the way, Jeremy, thank you for.
the view of the mountain from like the
Oh,
shoreline.
It's coming through.
I mean, this isn't a great picture of
wow.
the mountain, but like, it's like tall and it goes like up to here.
yeah,
That's how
yeah.
tall it is. Food was okay. Food was
Yeah, you don't, yeah, I mean, you don't go to like northern climates for the food necessarily,
The,
unless,
like,
unless it's
cathedral.
fish. That's beautiful.
That looks like it's 150 years old, but it was built like in the. Yeah. And then. Oh my God, we went to. I went to shoreline and then,
Oh, you saw Northern
Oh, yeah.
Lights? I didn't know that.
we were there for 5 days, and the night we went was the only night in the entire week. That we saw, like,
Have you ever
really-
seen them before?
It was the first time.
Yeah, I've never seen them. That's cool. That's really exciting. There's so, and you actually got photos.
I didn't think I was gonna get anything, but
Yeah.
I was shocked. So we went to the bath, which is just like
Oh my
really hot water.
God.
Um,
Is that the friend you went with?
yeah. And then this is like the
Oh.
bus area as we're going to the geyser. And then this is the geyser.
Now you have two.
It was kind of fantastic.
Did you just feel like the air was like clean and it was just so?
It was so clean, it was so, I felt so I'm serious, like, I think like, I've seen the mountains in like the States. I've
Yeah,
seen that,
yeah.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
But like being in Iceland, I felt like,
It's like another, yeah.
it
Yeah.
was just.
be a real.
I would love to go.
So they ended up maybe taping it or?
Oh, no, they, working day with her. Full staff.
How old is he?
But he is taking it on. They've gotten. I do, I want these pictures.
Why do people in the why do the parents in the degree even though they're there?
Oh my God, I don't know what we're gonna do.
I just parented. Yeah. And I was parented in the seventies, so.
Hey, Pat. Pat, I thought you said you weren't.
So, you know what I mean? No. Oh, it's never something. How many people do we have?
Need one more person. We would have made quorum. Oh, wait. We have quorum.
Yes, you do.
We have quorum.
Excellent, thank you.
So I'm here.
Mm.
The fact that we're so fine about this. And someone like,
The end of June, it all goes away.
I'm moving your jacket because I hate this chair. That's the sucky one. That goes all the way back. Ay, me duele todo. Is, Cindy here?
I thought you were like physically moving the chair.
I'd be kind of messed up. Even though I would.
It's a very high school thing to do.
I have a question,
Mm-hmm.
not work related. Why would someone leave winter to go to Iceland? The fuck?
It was just like a New York City winter. Like it was maybe 30 degrees. It was breezy.
and you had hot springs.
I was just about to say that you put yourself in the hot springs. Didn't you get cold when you get out of the hot spring?
Had a robe.
No,
Once
no.
you get out of the water, you put on a robe. Go inside, you have some hot coffee.
It's nice
That
that you,
sounded amazing.
The European coffee,
but
How many days
put
were you there?
Colombian coffee to shame.
How many days were you there?
5 days.
con frío.
I'm already planning on going next year again. And doing like the other side of the country where there's
See-
like 10 people.
I like when you do your Aruba, because I can live through you vicariously. But Iceland, I'm like, no. I mean, it looked beautiful, don't get me wrong. It looked absolutely beautiful.
And the roof is still happening too.
And thank God you weren't,
Summer.
luckily you weren't on that plane. Wasn't there a plane that was coming from Auckland or something? And
Yeah, United night.
how are you doing? Yeah, I
Colombian
want to see
United
baby
Airlines dragged
pictures.
that person off the plane. I've never flown with them again.
Oh,
Yeah, remember when you dragged them off the plane?
wow.
That is so sweet. How old in the picture?
Why was he dragged out, Julio?
I don't remember.
What?
I remember he had a mask on.
They all get them at different ages. One of my nieces got them.
I don't remember
Didn't
when.
have
I need to look it up.
That's
it
what
was
my
like-
mom told me
it was
that
a
I didn't have teeth
misunderstanding.
until I was like a year old. That's so funny.
Like,
And he lost it. That's a long flight, right?
What, Ruben?
No,
Are you
no,
getting
it wasn't,
the
oh, it was Aruba that they got kicked off.
No, no, no. I don't remember where.
Cause I heard that there was something with an Auckland flight. I don't know if it was going or going there or whatever it was, but that, apparently the plane, something happened, it had this turbulence of some sort, and
Oh,
people got
yeah.
hurt.
They were like on the ceiling of the plane for like 20 seconds.
That's scary. I only wanted 2 hour flight.
That's why you have to wear your seatbelt.
And the playground, the Nico playground.
United?
Oh, I love it there.
He looks like he stuck his finger in place.
What do we have in, oh my God, that's here.
I know, right?
I had 2 blonde children. and this is-
Were you blonde when you were little?
Yeah. I was blonde, surprised.
You were blonde? I was blonde too.
Blonde, and then it changed.
Yeah. You wanna see my baby?
How many months is your baby?
6 months. So here he is early today.
I can I wanna bite those toes and stop.
Let's see.
He's a good baby?
He's a very good baby. He's a good baby.
Oh my God, look at that.
Yeah, and then, my husband took one, well, this is avocado. Eating avocado.
Get you the best thing for him to eat. I'll show you. My little girl, so proud of her.
This was today, actually. He fed himself today. My husband sent this to me.
Good, very good, independent.
Oh,
We
did?
have quorum.
Oh, amazing.
Which is why we're gonna get started. Good evening, everyone. We are gonna get started. We have a quorum, which is exciting. And Jeremy will call the roll shortly.
Good evening, everyone. When I call your name, I'm sorry?
Sorry, I said roll the call instead of
Oh,
call.
I missed that. When I call your name, please acknowledge. I will acknowledge you. If you're joining us on Zoom, please remember to unmute yourself and then mute yourself again once you're done. Let's start with, if you are not a member of the committee, I'm not going to call your name, but I am going to write your name down. So let's start with Julio Pena III.
Present.
Thank you. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Present.
Thank you. Patricia Ruiz. Thank you. Karen Rolnick. Thank you. John DeLuper.
Present.
Thank you. John, you did not count towards the quorum. Cynthia Jeffers. Cesar Zuniga. Thank you. Victor Swinton. Sam Sierra. 5 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, again. I will call the meeting to order. We have 2 items on the agenda. And the first one is a virtual participation resolution. So for those that may remember, a couple of years ago, I believe it was in 2021, the state legislature amended the open meetings law to allow virtual participation or video conferencing at public body meetings. That amendment to the state law allows us and grants us to participate virtually at meetings. So for example, we have board members joining us tonight virtually. At our monthly meetings, we have board members attending virtually, but board members attending virtually do not count towards quorum, but can participate in general conversation and in voting. That amendment to the state law expires in June of this year, which would mean that there will be no virtual participation in meetings. And if someone were to join virtually, they would have to publicly post where they are virtually located in order to qualify for the open meeting, in order to be in compliance with the open meetings law. So this resolution is actually a resolution that some other community boards have also voted on. I can't recall which board. I believe it was CB 14 or CB 9. Basically, it asks our state legislatures, as they are working on the budget right now, but also before legislative session ends in June, to come up with a solution for the open meetings law to not only continue allowing virtual participation at meetings, but also to address the issues around quorum, because it requires that a quorum can only be met by those attending in person and does not count those attending virtually. We have seen over the last couple of years, particularly during the pandemic and lockdown, how virtual meetings have made it more accessible for people to participate in community conversations and also just like getting the work of the community done. And if if the open meetings law amendment that allows virtual participation expires, I think it would do not just a disservice to this board, but to public bodies across the city as well as across the state. It would include, community education councils, community advisory boards, like it has wide-reaching implications. So this resolution would ask our three state senators, I was right the first time, and 3 assembly members, all who represent some portion of Community District 7, to address the open meetings law before the session ends in June. And actually, now that I just said that, I would need to make a change to this so that it says specifically before the June expiration. With that, is there any discussion, questions, suggestions? Beverly?
Beverly, could you speak, or do you want to?
I can repeat. Can you repeat? So the question is, are other boards on board with this request? I would like to say yes, that many of them do want to see the state addressing the open meetings law. And I'm looking very quickly in my text to see what other board has passed this or some version. I know CB5 is interested in passing this, but they haven't brought it to their board yet. Yeah, I think we're ahead of most of them. Maybe 1 or 2 have passed it thus far, but many of them are interested in addressing the open meetings law. So your comment is perhaps a way that they can address it is if they're allowed to participate virtually twice, and then the rest must be in person. Yeah, I mean, I would leave the specifics to our legislatures because they're going to be the ones writing the law. But I do think there needs to be, particularly for our legislators, like some conversation on like what's working and what's not working. But I think the main issue is, 1, we can't let this expire, but 2, also like come up with something that is a little bit more workable. Pat, then Karen?
Thank you. In my thinking, what's important to me is that for those who are attending virtually and they don't count for quorum, but they count to vote, doesn't make sense to me. We are all adults, and putting this number on how many times you have to be in person. I think it should be left up to the individual because we all have individual reasons as to why we may not be able to attend in person. And if you're going to stick someone to a number, we're going to wind up losing board members. I think flexibility is key. And like I said, I mean, we're all adults and we know maybe we couldn't make it to this month's board meeting, and it has happened where someone couldn't make it, but they came the following. Things happen in life. And to have the flexibility of joining a meeting on Zoom, which is something we never had. If you missed the monthly meeting, you missed the monthly meeting, and you only had the minutes to review. Now, the option of being able to participate in not just the monthly board meetings, but every committee meeting, if a person is out of town on business, but they're making the commitment to join. And I think it's important that if they can do that, they should be able to count as quorum as well as vote. And that's my opinion.
Karen, and then Cesar.
Is this working? Yes. I just wanted to mention, in answer to your question, that I attended a hearing. I attended virtually in Manhattan on this very subject. And community board after community board after community board in Manhattan was coming up testifying, all railing against this rule. So we're not the only ones that are being affected by this. But my question is, and maybe someone here knows the answer, does the rest of New York State have community boards? I think it's a New York City specific thing, right?
So there are various things, yep. There are various things like town councils, but not community boards themselves. I believe we're the only entity with them.
So I'm feeling like this is like targeting New York City. It's making us, we cannot function now. And it's making it impossible for us to function. And I'm wondering if we should also include like Governor Hochul and some others on this list at that level, because I feel like New York City is being singled out to, it's like sabotaging us.
Oh, yeah, so all of them are, but I like that point of addressing it to Governor Hochul as well. Whether she listens or not, another story. Cesar?
So I kind of want to piggyback off of what Pat was talking about, because I do think that it can get really dicey for us and for the legislators to come up with rules about how many and when and how often people can be virtual. I think we should stick to the data, and the data suggested that when you had this hybrid option, when you had the virtual option, there was just more engagement, period, full stop, right? And so that should be the goal of this whole thing, not to create, to Pat's point, not to police adults around like whether or not and when they engage. That's to Pat's point, that's up to us. I think we all recognize our responsibility to serve, right? And creating this virtual option just gives us more opportunity to serve, not less, right? Being in this room is just one way of participating, right? And so for me, we shouldn't get, because that's just going to create tension among us, because some of us have different lives than others. And so for me, it's what did we learn through COVID? That we had full meetings, we had lots of engagement, and that should be the jumping off point for the legislators, right? Is like, do we want more civic engagement or less, right? And this virtual option, I think, by all accounts, increases that engagement and that participation. So that's, yeah. Thank you.
Cindy?
This is just sort of adding on to what's already been said, just a short comment, but I think it's definitely more engagement, and I see that reflected in the resolution.
But what I'd also like, if possible, to explicitly reflect is the diversity and representation of like people who can engage, like who are we excluding when we make it only in-person meetings, right? Like we're excluding maybe some people with disabilities, people like you said that are away, or people who have small children, whatever it might be, childcare challenges, work life. So I think like, and to Karen's point, like the community board, this is a volunteer thing, you know, and so I do feel like we all take this seriously, and it's if we really want democracy at the community level and you want to engage diverse voices, you have to create options for people to engage meaningfully. And I think being present in person is really important personally. And I think a lot of people on the community board would agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, when we had the virtual option, we saw much higher attendance and we saw more diverse attendance. And so I'd like to call out the diversity. Yeah, Jeremy. Oh,
Oh,
Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Sorry.
So I would also say, if you look up at our screen, we have closed caption. That's not something that we can handle, obviously, just in person. And we don't do it very often because of our budget, but it's much easier to handle translation through Zoom because of the functions of the platform.
I'd like to make one more additional comment, and I'm thinking of the people in wheelchairs, people that use Access-a-Ride. Are they able to come to a meeting and then sit here and worry if they're going to get a ride home? Having the virtual option opens the door for us to have so many different kinds of people, you know, and especially since, yeah, we have a ramp, a wheelchair can come up. Our bathrooms are not ready. We're not ready for that. And we don't want to exclude someone because our bathrooms are not ready. No, you can join us on Zoom and your voice counts. So that's just something else that I think is really, really important.
I mean, I would just clarify, we're ready for the bathrooms. It's the city dragging their feet and starting that project. But Jeremy?
I was going to make the same point that Pat just made. I will just say our bathroom project is 11 years in the 10-year capital plan.
And this is just one, oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, yeah, the night that it was freezing and there was ice out, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people joined virtually that night.
And I would just add to the diversity and representation, there may be people that can't be out like late in the evening, or maybe they're older adults or whatever. It's just not, I think like it just having that option, I think as the culture, it's on us from a leadership perspective to like bring people together and try to physically bring people together as much as possible, but not having the virtual option excludes people. And I don't think we should do that, so.
Agree. Gabino? Oh, thank you.
Hi, so being one of the newest members here present today, I could be maybe a testament to the fact that I got involved because the virtual option was available for me. And you know, and absolutely I have a different perspective from the majority of people who may be coming here present. But it is important for people to come. I just want to say I did join this community board because, you know, the virtual option was available. So I was informed of what was going on around our community. And thank you very much. If you guys, we could support something with uh, in regards to quorum. Maybe with a virtual option, we could count people towards quorum, even in a virtual option, if that's possible. And yeah, just as a testament, I'm the newest member here, at least present here at this point, and I appreciate everything, and I do feel like I belong in this community because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabino. I appreciate that. So I would like to motion that we support this resolution with the suggested changes to include diversity and participation, and who is not, or who we are excluding when we don't offer a virtual option. the closed captioning feature that is available, as well as addressing the letter to Governor Hochul, and more explicit with the deadline of the expiration of the June 2024 provision. Is there a second? Pat seconded. Is there any discussion? Mhm.
So, once again, for this provision for the attendance, is quorum going to be available for virtual option?
Yeah, so this is asking for our legislature and our state representatives, as well as Governor Hochul, to address not only the virtual participation when it expires, but also addressing the issues around quorum. And in terms of like the specifics, we're gonna leave that to the legislature to decide. We obviously have some ideas, but let them duke it out. Any other discussion? I would like to pass this with unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Seeing or hearing none, so passed. Thank you. And this will be brought to the full board in March. The next item on the agenda is a resolution in support of a ceasefire. This has been brought up through new business at the last couple of board meetings. We unfortunately lost a quorum each time. This resolution is similar to the one that Damien had introduced, just a little bit different. It was passed around today and calls for a immediate ceasefire, release of all hostages, and an end to violence in the region, and also calls on our elected leaders, be it local, state, or federal, to do what they can to end the hostilities. Is there any discussion or any questions about the resolution? Cindy?
Does everyone in the room have a printed copy of this? Okay.
Oh, so yes, I'm gonna read it word for word. Resolution in support of a ceasefire. Whereas all human life is precious and the targeting of civilians, no matter their faith or ethnicity, is a violation of international humanitarian law. Whereas Brooklyn Community District 7 has a growing Middle Eastern and North African and Jewish population. Whereas we condemn the murder, attacks, and kidnapping perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th and do not condone acts of violence. Whereas between October 7th and October 16th, 2023, armed violence has claimed the lives of over 2,700 Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis, including Americans, and wounded thousands more. Whereas since the start of the conflict, over 29,000 Palestinian lives have been lost. Whereas hundreds of thousands of lives are at imminent risk if a ceasefire is not achieved and humanitarian aid is not delivered without delay. Whereas the federal government holds immense diplomatic power to save Israeli and Palestinian lives, now therefore be it resolved that Brooklyn Community Board 7 calls for immediate ceasefire, release of all hostages, and an end to violence in the region. Be it further resolved that Brooklyn Community Board 7 calls on our elected leaders, be it local, state, or federal, to do what they can to end the hostilities. Any comments, questions, discussion on the resolution? Cindy?
I just have a question, just a clarification. In the part of the resolution that says, whereas between October 7th and October 16th, 2023, armed violence has claimed the lives of over 2,700 Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis, including Americans, and wounded thousands more. I just wanted to clarify, does the including Americans, is that in reference to the 2,700 Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis? Is that what we're trying to say, that it's Palestinian Americans and Israeli Americans?
Yes.
Okay, I would just propose that we put a comma after lives has claimed the lives of over, just from a grammar standpoint, help me here. As long as we can clarify and make sure that it's not only in reference to the Israelis, but it's also Palestinian Americans as well. Does that?
The lives of over 2,700, Palestinians and
Anyway, maybe.
I
if we
get
can
what you're
just make
saying.
Sure, like the spirit of it, just make sure whoever is our like.
Target
just
audience?
double, just make sure that that meaning is conveyed, and maybe it is articulated that way, but to me, it reads that it's in reference to the Israelis, but it could be fixed by having another comma, like claimed, like many lives, including over 2,700 Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis, comma, including Americans, and wounded thousands more. Does that make sense? Has claimed many, like, many lives, comma.
including Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis, including Americans,
That,
wounded thousands of lives.
yeah, I just, I want to, if it's okay, yeah. Great. That's another way to do it. Thank you. I just want to make sure
Got it.
we're clear in our.
So how is it gonna read now, Julia?
So it will read, whereas between October 7th and October 16th, 2023, armed violence has claimed the lives of over 2,700 Palestinians and over 1,400 Israelis, and including Americans, and wounded thousands more. Is that-
I think that's a,
No.
and, I think we can fix this by just saying has claimed like thousands of lives, including 2,700 Palestinians, over 1,400 Israelis and Americans, comma, and wounding thousands more. What's that? What's that, Jeremy? Oh, could you speak into the microphone, Jeremy?
So after Palestinians, put the words including Americans, and after Israelis, put the words including Americans.
Yes, no?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Really have to break it down by ethnicity, race, and just say lives of the number of,
I mean, we can. I think it's important to name the specifics in terms of like the data. But I do agree that we need to workshop this sentence so that it's more clear about who we're referring to.
What if we just say which have included of over, I mean, I don't know whether do we need to wordsmith this in the meeting?
No, we don't.
It's just the spirit of like including that Americans are going to be noted, but that it's clear that it's in connection to.
Mhm. Yes. We can wordsmith this before the meeting. Karen?
I just want to say, I still don't think this is something that community boards should be taking up, but since we are taking them, I support this, but I think it's very, very important that we not take sides. And I'm a little confused as to why we say in the 4th paragraph that there were 2,700 Palestinians, then the next one we say there's 29,000. I mean, can we just delete that second line because it's confusing?
You mean the
Where it
fifth
says-
paragraph?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, yeah, the 5th paragraph seems to conflict with the 4th
numbers
paragraph.
don't add up.
They don't add up because the first is from the first week of the the war, the invasion, and then the second, the one right after is to date.
I see. But I still think that, you know, we really don't want to give, I personally think it's important that we not take sides. It's an extremely controversial and there's passion on all sides of this and horror on all sides of this. And I just think that we shouldn't, I'm thinking maybe we should just delete line number 5. So here's what I'll do. I'd like to request an amendment that we delete paragraph 5.
So since there has been no motion thus far, it's just discussion on the edits, so we'll take that out. Cindy?
I have a different perspective on that, which is, I think the purpose of bringing this forward, at least for some of the sort of community members, just based on the discussion that we had at the last meeting, was in fact the 29,000, like that, you know, there are people starving, people not getting the healthcare they need, you know, it's a terrible situation. And if you're going to support a ceasefire, it's to kind of stop people from dying of starvation at this point, the Palestinian people from dying of starvation at this point in time. And so, like, I do think there's a way to hold, like, to condemn the murder and attacks and atrocities of October 7th against Israelis, but also recognize that a lot of innocent people, and especially children, have died since then. And why would you call for a ceasefire at this time? It would be because of the accumulating loss and destruction. So I'm just wondering, like, if we remove that, we're really calling for this ceasefire to stop now. So to me, to take it out is problematic because it's the very reason that we want to provide to stop more lives from being lost. So I'm just saying, like, based on what I heard at the last meeting, the motivation for bringing this forward has to do with, like, trying to stop more lives from being lost. Whereas hundreds of thousands of lives are at imminent risk if a ceasefire is not achieved and humanitarian aid is not delivered without delay. Yeah, but it doesn't recognize, you know, if we only put in what happened between October 7th and 16th, we're not recognizing, you know, the pain and suffering. And I understand there are also Israelis who have died as well. But the whole point of bringing forward, like, a request for a ceasefire or a resolution would be because we're trying to acknowledge what's happened between then and now. So I just want to bring that up for discussion.
I hear you. I think what we can do is kind of add that into the sentence, into the 4th paragraph, so that it's also included. So it would add wounded thousands more, and since the start of the conflict, over 29,000 Palestinian lives have been lost. If a board member were to introduce a resolution for the war in Ukraine, we'd be happy to discuss it. The question was, why are we singling out this issue and not, for example, Russia invading Ukraine? And if a board member wishes to do so, we'd be happy to discuss it.
Can we do
I
this?
would not like to do it with this. I think that should be handled separately.
Why? I'm curious, why?
I think that they're both distinct issues and should be addressed separately.
So, protocol. Can I make the motion now that we also do a resolution in regard to Ukraine, or am I opening up a can of worms?
We haven't voted on this yet, so. Mm,
So this is kind of what the issue is, right? So let me preface everything by saying I am appalled by what's happening in both conflicts. I have Jewish children. I've also made a career out of helping children and families. So what's happening in Gaza is appalling. But I think to Karen's point, right? So if we do a resolution on that conflict, then are we going to then do a resolution on Ukraine? Then we should do a
Everything.
resolution on the border.
Oh my God.
A lot of bad things are happening in the world, right? Like, there's no question about that. And it's not mutually exclusive to think that we don't have to take this up at all and feel empathy and solidarity with whatever, Israel or Palestine. Yeah, that's your jam, whatever you want to do. So because again, I think Pat's introducing like the dilemma that we have here, right? Because then, stand up, the next person stand up and like offer a resolution on the border. So all of that is to say is, yeah, like where, like as a body, how do we create a scope so that we're not now debating and managing foreign policy at this very, very local level, right? So that's all that I'm raising, because now I'm hearing Pat saying, what about Ukraine? So something for us to think about. Yeah, and I don't have the answer, but this is kind of where I'm seeing like the slippery slope, where we start with the Middle East, and we go to Russia, then we go to the southern border, and so I just wonder if we have any way of managing, offering our support and our sympathy, but also acknowledging the limits of what this body can do. That's all that I want to sort of put up.
Karen?
I just wanted to add that I actually emailed the borough president's office asking that very question, because the question basically boils down to what are our obligations here? How are all 50 members of this community board obliged to sit through any motion that someone brings up regarding anything anywhere in the world? I mean, this is a question, I support this. I think it's a good solution because someone was very upset about it. But on the other hand, it does kind of open up a Pandora's box of where are our responsibilities here?
And I think to your point, I hear you, and I think listening to or repeating what I think Jeremy said at the last meeting was like, we can say and vote on whatever we want, whether people, elected officials, city agencies, whether they listen to that is another story. But I think it goes to our values and where we are in terms of representing our community. I absolutely agree. I think, if we want to say something, we should, if that is what the will of our board members want. So we can vote on this, and at the next meeting, it can be voted down. It can be amended. It can be supported. I think it's really at the will of our board members. But I think given that this was brought up at multiple meetings and public by one person, but I'll just say full disclosure, I support this resolution. And I think that we want to show our support and solidarity with residents in our district. That doesn't exclude us from, or doesn't preclude us from supporting other resolutions in the future. It depends on what the will and what the will of our board wants to do. So like, if a board member wants to support a resolution for the war in Ukraine, by all means, go for it. But I think right now we're discussing the and this is not directed at you, this is directed in general. Right now, we're discussing a resolution in support of a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. Is there any other discussion? So I would like to motion that we support this resolution with the changes that we suggested, including combining the fifth and sixth paragraph. Is there a second to the motion? Fourth and fifth paragraph, thank you. I can't count. You have to be a committee member in order to. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Cesar. Is there discussion on the motion? Victor? Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry, Victor. Traffic was crazy today. I would like to do this by a hand vote from committee members. If you are in support of the resolution, please raise your hand. Okay, hands down. Thank you. If you are not in support of the resolution, please raise your hand. Committee members?
On record that I'm not voting at this time because I really want to think about this and read it carefully. And if it would be circulated to all before the meeting, I would appreciate it.
Thank you for both. Thank you, Victor. So the motion passes.
Five in favor, zero opposed.
In the microphone.
5 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 1 voting present.
Thank you, everyone. I did also wanted to just quickly mention, Karen emailed me yesterday. I will be asking for some help in updating our member handbook and our community, what is it called? The welcome booklet for the shelter residents. If anyone here is interested in helping out, amazing. But I'll also be asking folks at the board meeting in March to volunteer and help updating it. I think it's also a good practice that we remind ourselves to look at it at minimum every year.
About the bylaws.
That is also on my to-do list to talk with the bylaws committee. Thank you for reminding me.
I have a point of order, I think it is. Is it point of order or not? Is that accurate that there was one opposed or were there 2 abstentions?
Just thinking about that because I didn't vote at
I
all.
didn't hear any.
So it was Victor abstain, voting present, oh my gosh, Pat did not vote. So it's accurate. In that it wasn't considered an abstention.
So it's considered opposed if it's I just want to clarify why opposed. That's why.
So
Jeremy stated that there was 1 vote that was opposed, and I just didn't hear that.
No, there wasn't.
Oh, that's what I heard. Oh, 0 opposed. Okay,
0 opposed, 0
thank
abstentions,
you.
1 voting present.
thank you. That's just my.
No, thank you for asking.
Sure.
Since there is no other business, this meeting is adjourned. I think that's the shortest one.
Good night, everyone.